An absolute advantage exists if you can produce more of a good or service than someone else, or if you can produce that good or service faster than someone else. An absolute advantage implies that you are more efficient, that is, able to produce more with the same amount of resources. For example, Art can write one hit song per hour, whereas Paul can write two hit songs per hour. Thus, Paul has an absolute advantage in songwriting. A comparative advantage, on the other hand, exists if you can produce a good at a lower opportunity cost than someone else. In other words, if you sacrifice less of one good or service to produce another good or service, then you have a comparative advantage. In the example given earlier, Art and Paul are songwriters, but what if both are also capable of performing complex brain surgery? If Art and Paul can both successfully complete two brain surgeries in an hour, then which has a comparative advantage in songwriting and which has a comparative advantage in brain surgery? To calculate the comparative advantage, you must determine the opportunity cost that each person faces when producing. In Art's case, for every hit song he writes, he sacrifices two successful brain surgeries. In an hour, Paul can produce either two hit songs or two brain surgeries. This means that Paul sacrifices one brain surgery for every hit song he writes, and therefore has the comparative advantage in songwriting. Art, on the other hand, has the comparative advantage in brain surgery because for every brain surgery he performs, he only sacrifices half of a hit song compared to Paul, who sacrifices a whole hit song for the same surgery. In conclusion, Art should specialize in brain surgery and Paul in songwriting because that is where they find their comparative advantage.